Omori Motoki has a brand new song. Yes, this is the lead singer of Mrs. Green Apple. And in case you are new to this channel, we've been doing a track by track listen through to every single Mrs. Green Apple song. So as a result, when there's a new song from Omori comes out, I'm particularly interested to check out what Omori-san has to say. And, the last song that we heard from him, the last song that he had released was definitely a really interesting song that showed a very different side of him from what we hear in Mrs. Green Apple. And ultimately, that's what a solo project should be for. It should be for showing that side that is different enough from what you do in your main project that it deserves its own label, its own separate entity, its own thing. So this new song is called Hai-iro, which means grey. And so I'm, looking forward to seeing what we get from it. I mean, grey. You think grey, you don't think big and dramatic. You don't think high energy. You think ponderous. You think ambiguous. So I'm sounding too much like an art student. Let's talk about themes and things. But look, I'm just telling you my initial thoughts before going into this. No idea what to expect. I mean, all we know is that Omori Motoki always is offering something genuinely interesting with his songs. So I'm hoping to just get another one of those experiences where, as someone who values songwriting above all else, I can listen to it and say, yes, something interesting has been done here. So anyway, enough talk. Let's get into it. This is Hai-iro by Omori Motoki. Let's go. Oh, he's going for traditional instruments again. Turn it up a bit. Big, dark, dramatic tone. They've got a history, haven't they? You can tell from the video. They've got a history. Loving the build-up. The themes in the video immediately are really strong. Ooh, okay, that is very interesting. So I'm getting this kind of like AI versus humanity theme coming in very strongly, but I love how the song is leaning into the drama. There's a lot going on here, isn't there? There is a lot going on here. I feel like this is a movie as well as a song. I love how the chorus has this broken beat. It's more soundtrack than mainstream song. Oh, I said I came here for some interesting songwriting, and boy, oh boy, did we get it. Oh god. Oh, that's like a computer code or something. Some kind of programming. Ah, and everyone comes together to celebrate for the one who sacrificed for the things that make them more the same than different. I feel like I need to talk about the video and the song. There's a lot to go through here. First, wow, wow. Okay, I was not expecting to have this much to process, but first things first. What a really interesting experience. I was obviously at first I started just trying to talk through the various things that I was noticing, but then I realized if I keep on saying everything that I'm noticing and everything that is really hitting me as this goes through, then I'm just going to be talking all the way through the song because there's so much in here. I mean, first things first, I will say the imagery in some yes, okay, so for anyone who's seen like science fiction or anything like that at all, you're going to recognize a lot of the tropes that are used in this. Now I'm going to talk briefly about this first of all because it's useful when I curve back around to talking about the themes in the song. But I mean, these outfits, it reminds me of that movie Equilibrium, actually, very weirdly niche one. But you've got like the idea of like the fight between them, and then obviously you've got the slightly, this is really great imagery, but it's slightly iRobot esque kind of the plugged in robots, and then the idea of like her experiencing, and oh, there's the humanity, can she feel things, and that question of the Blade Runner question of can something synthetic feel, and this is all very and the humans becoming the rebels against the machine, etc. This is all very much taking tropes that maybe you would consider to be old sci-fi tropes, but actually making them rather relevant to our current world of thinking about how AI is no longer a sci-fi concept. AI is a massive part of our daily lives. So this is somewhat timely and yet at the same time somewhat old school. It has a very classic old school science fiction aesthetic, which plays very strongly with a somewhat current theme, or should I say a current paranoia, a fear that we have. Well, paranoia suggests it's unjustified. I have no idea what the future brings, but it is very interesting how this addresses a lot of those issues, especially given that I have spent so much time on this channel talking about how technology in terms of AI really is affecting our music scene and how, creating music is something where AI is muscling in on that. And so it's been a very interesting time, I think, the last few years for a lot of us to address these issues, whereas this is just kind of taking a much more straightforward approach to that in a lot of ways. But I will say the imagery, first of all, in the video is beautifully done. But I think that at the core, what Omori seems to be going at, and again, my Japanese is, I'm not super good with the nuances, but what he seems to be going at here is just the idea of, for a video where it's presenting the black and white, that does seem to be a big thing here. The dark, the light, the right, the wrong. The song is more addressing the idea of the grey areas between. Hence the name. It does seem to be a song which is much more interested in the fact that reality has more nuance and ambiguity rather than just a constant sense of right and wrong and different and the same. So yeah, okay. That's my art school lecture out the way. Let's get into what really matters here, which is the song. I have to say that from a musical perspective, this does something that I actually appreciate, which is that it takes a fairly simple melody and presents it in such an interesting way. Now, a big part is that this song obviously comes in with an introduction which is obviously supposed to give you a little bit of room to think. It kind of sets this dark tone with a kind of an accordion-esque sound, and everything's very brooding and very thoughtful. And then when the song actually comes in, though, I mean, that's good because you don't want to, when you've got a heavy beat, you don't want to come in immediately, because if you come in immediately, you don't have time to feel the impact. Having a thoughtful intro for a few seconds means that when the heavy beat comes in, it feels heavy. Any song that already starts turned up to 11 never feels that loud. So I think that intro for me was just an opportunity for him to set up the mood and then hit you with the actual beat that then now feels much more impactful as a result. And what we get when the actual song starts is very interesting. What you're hearing, a lot of those deep sort of kind of like deep synthetic sounds. It's got this dramatic feeling, which is very much sort of movie soundtrack. Deep kind of growling sounds that are very high impact. And then later on in the song, there's much more emphasis on strings over the top of that. And this is kind of the classic movie soundtrack approach to songwriting, or soundtrack writing, I guess you'd say. And in that sense, I really like it because often that's something that can work in a, dare I say, mainstream song, but you really need to do it with you need to really present it well. You need to understand what you're doing. And I love the fact that he's done it so effectively here. You have all of those soundtrack qualities of the deep snarling bass line and the sort of thumping, almost kind of like somewhere between a heartbeat and a war drum, kind of a sense of this low pounding drum that's hitting on the floor, and at the same time beautiful strings over the top, adding that delicate feeling. It's lovely how the song is really embracing that soundtrack-esque quality, and one of the reasons why you can feel of it as more as a soundtrack song than a mainstream traditional song is that obviously we think of a mainstream traditional song and almost every song has kick, snare, some variety of kick and snare. Might not always be your normal drum kick and snare, but there's always that kind of syncopation dynamic happening in the rhythm of almost every single song, where there is some kind of low end kick and there's some kind of snare that signifies the other part of the beat. Whereas this is not really a snare, it's just the kick and then the drama of everything happening over the top, the synths, the strings. It's all very much just, the beat is just there to kind of time keep, but nothing more. This bit, there isn't even a bit there's no beat in this point. There was a little bit of a snare there, wasn't there? Piano's in there. And you listen to all that's happening on the melodic scale. You've got the piano, you've got the strings, the vocals, everything is like so thick and dramatic. You know, I'm hearing a tiny bit of snare, but it's so quiet. Sorry, there's like a little bit of a snare sound in there, but it's virtually inaudible. So for me, this is a song that's really leaning into dramatic vocals, strings, all of that. And the end result is something that feels beautiful. It feels, the video certainly helps. I think the video and the song actually go very complementary well together because they're tying in things like themes, and that emotional sense is carried by really good actors and very cinematic scenes. But ultimately what we're getting here is something that just kind of oozes drama, but it feels effective. Yes, it is a bit melodramatic. Yes, the music video has a somewhat melodramatic, somewhat stereotypical sci-fi story to tell us. And yes, it isn't really telling us anything we haven't heard before. It's the oldest time trope of, the technology, what if it too can feel? And yes, the song itself is not doing anything we haven't necessarily heard before. But I just think it's such a fantastic leaning into those two things. Yeah, it leans into those two things so well that it doesn't feel, I guess the most important thing, it doesn't feel cheesy. It feels like lots of stereotypes, but well executed. And ultimately the end result is something that, I guess these are stereotypes of movies more than anything, stereotypes of soundtracks and movies. So it just feels really refreshing hearing someone doing this as I don't want to say a pop song, because people will turn that into a reductionist comment, but hearing someone do this as a mainstream piece of music with so much charm. So for me, I really enjoyed this. I thought it was nice because, again, the most important thing, it's something different from Omori. I like hearing artists who you respect do something different, so you get to hear more range. It's something new that you get to experience along with a songwriter who you really enjoy. So I thought this was great. Really good fun. Is it a song I'd come back to regularly? I don't think it's even designed that way, but is it the sort of song where there's going to be just one day where you're going to want that dramatic song that hits the mood right? That's what I think this is. And I think there'll be the right time and place will come where I'll be like, I just want a dramatic song. I'll put this on and I'll feel good. So there you go. Those are my thoughts. As always, get in the comments. Let me know what you think. And until I hopefully see you very soon for the next one of these. For now, ciao, ciao.